you guys. I'm so sorry that I am not here today. I'm actually in Boston. My husband and I flew out really late last night. Like we got on the plane at 12 a.m. And we are going to go to Martha's Vineyard and we're going to go see a Red Sox game, and I'm super excited about that. If you are watching this video, that means that whoever is running your class, they were able to find this and get it to play for you, so that's awesome. I just want to go over the agenda for today. The very first thing that you guys should have done as you came into class today is you should have worked on that Alex assignment that was called Decimal Place Value Review. Okay, so if you haven't done that yet, I need whoever is running your class to stop the video and have you spend 10 minutes doing that, and then you can come back to the video. The next thing that you should have already done is you should have watched a Generation Genius video on decimal operations, and in that video you got a review about how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with decimal numbers. Okay, so that brings us to the next part of your lesson today, which is this video right now that you're watching. So let's go ahead and move forward. After you watch the Generation Genius video, you should be able to answer the following questions. So we're just going to go over those really quick. If you want to add 3.51 and 5.21, how should you line them up? So remember that with decimal numbers, you want to make sure that you line the decimals up when you are adding and subtracting decimal numbers. So the decimals get lined up, and then once you've got your problem set up, wherever the decimal is in your problem, you just bring that decimal straight down. And then we would say 21 plus 51 is 72, and then 5 plus 3 is 8. So this is 8.72, or 8 and 72 hundredths. So if we have a number line, and on my number line, this is 8 and this is 9, 8.72 would be in between 8 and 9, and it's going to be closer to the 9. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next one. If you want to add numbers that have different number of decimal places, you still do the exact same thing as we just did. You still want to make sure that your decimals are lined up. So the number that has the biggest number of decimal places, you want to make sure that you put that on top when you're stacking, and then we're going to put the 2.5 right here below that. I always fill in my extra spaces with zeros just as placeholders. And then my decimal number goes straight down. 3 plus 0 is 3, 2 plus 0 is 2, 1 plus 5 is 6, and then I have 4 plus 2, which is 6. So 6.623 on a number line. If this is 6 and this is 7, we can see that this number is bigger than 6. And because in our tenths place we have a 6, this would be 6.5. So that number would be somewhere here on the number line. Okay. We're actually not going to start multiplying or dividing today, so we'll come back to the answers to these a little bit later. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to move to your worksheet that says 2.3, enrichment and extension. Your sub should actually have given you 3 things today. They should have given you the 2.3 enrichment and extension. I'm trying to see if you can see it. I don't know if you can. There we go. 2.3 enrichment and extension. They should have also given you adding, let's see if I can find it. There we go. Adding and subtracting, decimal word problems, and then you should have had today's notes guide right here. Let's see, there we go. Okay, the one that says student handout. So those are the 3 things you have. The one that I need you to grab first is the 2.3 enrichment and extension. Okay, so we are in this class going to be learning how to add and subtract positive and negative fractions and decimals. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on for the next couple of weeks. So I just wanted to share with you some examples of that in the real world, because I think that it's really important to have a purpose for the math that you're learning. Number 1, I'm going to first read it to you, and then I'm going to underline the question that we're being asked, and I want you to do the exact same thing as me. I want you to read through it as I'm reading it, and then I want you to underline the question. So it says, in golf, each hole has a par, or the amount of strokes it should take to complete the hole. Find the total of Find the total number of strokes above or below par the golfer shot after the first 6 holes golfing. Okay, so the question that we're being asked, and I want you to underline it, is find the number of strokes above or below par the golfer shot after the first 6 holes golfing, okay? And if we preview this chart right here and we look at it, we can see that we have 6 different holes. On the first hole, the par was 5, and the number of strokes that the golfer got was 3. On the second hole, the par was a 3, and the number of strokes that the golfer got was a 7. On the third hole, the par was 5, but they got a 3. That means that they did a really good job on that hole. Anytime you have under par, that means you are a really good golfer. So you can see on these 2 holes, the par was 5, but they shot 1 above on both of those. So the question we're being asked is find the total number of strokes above or below par the golfer shot after the first 6 holes golfing. So on hole number 1, if their par was 5 and it only took them 3 strokes, that means we're going to end up with a -2. On the second one, if the par was 3, but it took them 7 strokes, that means they didn't really have a very good hole. They shot 4 over what the par was. Okay? On the next one, they were back to shooting under par. So we can say a -2. And then on the next one, they shot above par by 1, and then above par by 1, and then above par by 2. So now we're ready to answer our question. We just need to combine these 6 integers. So a -2 and a +4, that makes a +2. And a +2, if I combine the +2 that we now have with this -2, because remember, anytime you have a subtraction sign in front of a number, that number is really negative. So a +2 and a -2, that's going to make a 0 pair. So that would be a 0. And then we have a 1, and a 2, which makes 4. Okay, so the total number of strokes above par the golfer shot after the first 6 holes is a 4. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next question. It says, find the amount of money left in the account. This is a checkbook ledger. You guys probably have never seen one of these. I know my own children have never seen one of these. I don't really know that many people that use these anymore, but the way that it works is in your checkbook, you would record your beginning balance. So that is the starting amount. So that is how much money this person had in their bank account to begin with. So $37, and this is 7 cents. So when we talk about money, this is this 0, and then this 7, this would be 7 cents. Okay, now a deposit means that they put more money into the account. So they started out with $37.07, and then they made a deposit of $38.10. So on your paper, I want you to make sure that you're writing down exactly what I'm writing down. So that means we would be taking the balance they already had, and we're going to be increasing it. We're going to be adding $38.10 to it. Okay, so notice how I lined up my decimals. This is going to be a 7, a 1. My decimal comes straight down. When I add 7 and 8, I get 15. So that gives me $75.17. Now, the next 2 transactions are withdrawals. A withdrawal means that they are spending money. Okay, so from the $75.17, they spent $8.79. So the money in their account after they make a withdrawal is going to be less. To figure out how much more less, we're going to use subtraction. Now I can't take 9 from 7, so I have to borrow from this, make it a 0. 17 minus 9 is 8. I also can't take 7 from 0, so I'm going to borrow from the 5 and make it a 4. 10 minus 7 is 3. This decimal needs to come straight down. I can't take 8 from 4, so I'm going to make this a 6 and this a 14. So I get $66.38. And then the last transaction was another withdrawal, meaning that they spent more money. They spent $63.12. So their balance, again, is going to be less after we subtract out the $63.12. This would be a 6, a 2, a decimal, and a 3. So in the end, in their account balance is now only $3.26. So they do have a little bit of money left, but not much. Okay, next question. It says, find the total number of yards the football team gained or lost. So we talked about football in here before. So if the first down, if it's a loss of 17 yards, that means they are going backwards 17. On the second down, they had a gain of 5. On the third down, they had a gain of 9. And then on the fourth down, they had a gain of 1. So we want to figure out what the total number of yards the football team gained or lost. So we want to combine all of these together. And if I combine a negative 17 with a positive 5, you can see our answer when we combine those is going to be negative, because 17 is bigger than 5 and it's negative. And then we're going to subtract the 2, so we get negative 12. We're then going to combine a negative 12 with a positive 9. That's going to give us a negative 3. We're then going to combine a negative 3 with a positive 1. So a negative 3 and a positive 1 is going to make negative 2. So in the end, the football team is 2. They've lost 2 yards. Okay, last question. Determine if the situation would result in a positive number, a negative number, or 0. So all we're doing is we're just saying that when we combine these, is our answer going to be positive or negative or 0? So your bank account has a balance of $111.13, and you write a check for $113.10. So if I look at these two, can you see how this number right here, the absolute value of that number is bigger and it's negative, which means that when I combine these two, my answer is going to be negative because we have more negative than we do positive. Okay, next one. You walk to your friend's house and then you walk back home. So your friend lives 7/10 of a mile away. So if we walk 7/10 in a positive direction, and then we walk back home, if I combine a positive 7/10 and a negative 7/10, those two are opposites of each other. And anytime you add two opposites, you always get a 0. Okay, next question. The temperature at the beginning of the day was 9 degrees Fahrenheit. So we have a thermometer, and this is 0, and this is 9. This is our starting temperature, okay, 9 degrees. The temperature dropped 14. So when we look at this, that means the temperature is going down 9, which puts us at 0, and then it has to go down even further, 5 more. And so we would end up at a negative 4. And you guys know if you combine these two right here, this from 0 to negative 4, that distance is 4, and then from 0 to 9 is 9. Oh, I needed to go one more, you guys, negative 5. So that distance would be 5, and then 9 plus 5 is 14. So quickly, let me do that again. I hope you guys did that correctly on your paper. So if I have a thermometer, and this is 0, and this is 9, I have to go down to a negative 5 because I need this right here, this whole distance, to be going down 14. Okay, because it dropped 14. Okay, last one. You cut a piece of wood into a 3 1/3 foot piece and a 2 2/3 foot piece, the original length of the board was 6. So on your paper, I want you to draw a board. So this would be 0 and this would be 6. Okay? And I'm going to mark 3 right here in the middle, and I want you to do the same thing. So if we cut this board into a 3 1/3 foot piece, so I'm going to mark this 4 and this 5, okay? That means we're going to cut off 3 and then 1/3 of the way to 4, okay? That's what that would look like. And then I am going to go the other direction, and I'm going to say 2 2/3. So if I go here, this would be 1 2 2/3. And so if we were to combine those, that board would be now in 2 pieces. They wouldn't be equal sizes, but they would be 2 pieces. So there really would be no board left. Okay, so next part, I need you to find the worksheet that's on the back of the 2.231, and I want you to turn it over. And all we're going to talk about is if the sign of our answer should be positive or negative. And so if you have a negative 0.5 and you're combining that with 0.2, remember that this is 5/10, this is 2/10. So that would be like this is a fraction, 2/10, and I'm combining that with a negative 5/10. So the first thing we need to do is figure out which of these is bigger absolute value-wise, okay? So is 2/10 bigger or is 5/10 bigger? And because 5/10 is bigger, if we were to find the absolute value of 5/10, that would be bigger and it's negative. Our answer is going to be negative. Okay, so we want to figure out which of our numbers has a bigger distance away from 0. That's really what we're thinking about, is that distance from 0. So if we look at this next one and we have a 10.2 and we have a negative 10.5, if I were to plot these on the number line, this is 0 and this is 10 and this is 11. If I were to plot, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. This is negative 10, sorry, and this is negative 11. And if I do that exact same thing, I need to make my number line a little longer here. Okay, so if I do that exact same thing on the other side, and I make this 10 and this 11, and I plot 10.2, that's going to be 10 and just a little bit more, okay? Because right here, that would be 10 and a half. Okay, and then if we look at the distance of negative 10.5, you can see that that distance right there, that's going to be longer than this distance right here by just a little bit. Okay, the next one, let's think about 19.2. So again, picture the number line. We want to think about how far away 19.2 is away from 0. So if I say this is 19, 19.2, going to be about this far, right? And then if we're going to plot negative 29.5 on the number line, I'd have to go past the 19, clear to negative 29, and I have to go past the negative 19 to negative 29, and then I'd have to go even a little bit further than that, okay? So you can see that this one has a bigger distance away from 0, and it's negative, so that means our answer is negative, okay? Whatever has the bigger distance away from 0, that's going to help you with the sign of your answer. So for this one, 29.2 and a negative 19.5, we know that this one, 29.2, that has a bigger distance away from 0. So our answer is going to be positive. Okay. Next one, negative 0.75 and a positive 0.6. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on a number line for you, because I think if you think about how far they are away from 0 on the number line, that's really helpful. So if this is 1, you guys know that 0.6, this is not all the way to 1. Remember, anytime you've got a fraction or a decimal, that is going to be somewhere, that value is going to be somewhere in between 0 and 1. So if this is 0.5, 0.6 would be about right here. That's how far 0.6 is away from 0. And then if I go in the other direction and I make this -1 and I make this -2, -0.75, we know that that's going to fall somewhere in between 0 and -1, and it's going to be closer to the -1 than it is the 0. Okay, so we can see that that would be a longer distance away from 0. Okay, so because this is a bigger amount absolute value-wise, and it's negative, our answer would be negative. Okay, same thing with this one. -2.75, that one is further away from 0. So this has, that we have more negative than we do positive, so our answer is negative. This one right here, we have a -17.75, and we have positive 20.6. So 20.6 is a bigger number, absolute value-wise, than 17.75. So you always take the sign of your biggest number, absolute value-wise. So that would be a positive. This one right here, -20.75 and positive 17.6, that would give us a negative answer. Okay, let's do a few more of these. The thing that I want to remind you about the next box is that anytime you have this situation right here, where you have the opposite of a negative number, the first thing that I want you to do before you do anything else is change this. Change both of this to adding a positive. Or if you want to go ahead and make this whole thing right here positive, just don't forget that this is 0.125, and we are now adding a positive 0.25. Okay, so in this case, our answer would be positive. Same thing's going to happen here. So we don't have a negative number left anymore. Both of these are now positive, and if you combine a positive with more positive, you're going further to the right on that number line. You're increasing your value. Okay, the next one, stop right here and make sure you change this before you do anything else. And now I want us to look at these side by side. We have a -65 and 125 thousandths, and we have a 64.25. So this number is bigger absolute value-wise, and it's negative. So your answer would end up being negative. Okay, this one, because we changed this right here, this is now a positive 64.25. Okay, and then the last one, adding a positive, we know that if we take a negative 144.125 and we combine that with a positive 145.25, our positive number is bigger absolute value-wise, so that answer is going to be positive. Okay, so when you're adding and subtracting integers or decimals or fractions, you always want to first figure out what the sign of your answer is going to be. Okay, now these ones right here, these are special kinds of decimals called repeating decimals, and we talked about those in our class already. So a negative or a 0.3 with a line over it would really be like this, right? That 3 is going to repeat. The fraction for this is actually equal to 1/3. And when you convert 1/3 into a decimal, you can see that that 3 continues to repeat. So when we do our long division here, we're going to keep getting the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, so 0.3 repeating is bigger absolute value wise than negative 0.16. So this answer would be positive. This answer would be negative. This answer right here, the thing I want you to remember is that this is a positive 2.3 repeating. And if there's a subtraction sign in front of a number, that number really is a negative. And if you want to rewrite it using the additive inverse, if that helps you, you can do that. But somehow you have to remind yourself that if there is a subtraction sign in front of a number, that number is going to the left on the number line. It is increasing to that negative side, okay? It's a bigger negative number. So this is how it would get rewritten if you're using the absolute value. But if you just want to circle that this is a positive 2.3 and this is a negative 8.16, then that works too. Okay. Then we are going to have a negative answer. And then on the last one, the 9.16, if we subtract the negative 8.3, we actually get a positive answer of 9.16. So I didn't realize that going through those first two sheets were going to take me so long. So I'm actually going to change your agenda, and I hope that's okay. I'm thinking that you don't want to watch Mrs. Palmer in a video anymore. I'm thinking at this point you're probably kind of bored of that. So we just did this one, we just did this one, we just did this one, and I want you to put the rest of it, everything that you've been handed, I want you to go ahead and put that in your binder. And we'll continue with this lesson when I get back next week, okay? So instead of doing some more notes and independent practice, what I want you to do instead is I want you to go to Alex, and I want you to do the assignment that is called probability number 2. Okay, so you're going to do probability number 2 in Alex. Then you're also going to do decimal practice number 2 in Alex. Sorry, I'm having a hard time writing here, okay? So decimal practice number 2 in Alex. So you have 2 Alex assignments that you need to work on. Once you're done with those 2 Alex assignments, the next thing I want you to do is to spend the rest of the time working on that project that we started last time, that mandala project with measuring your angles and coloring your pictures. Remember to alternate in between colored and black and white. So I hope that you guys have a good rest of class, and I will see you next week.